Before we start, I want to ask for your support. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps this channel grow and allows me to keep sharing stories like this. Jasmine Brooks stood in front of her bathroom mirror, mascara one trembling in her hand as she watched a single tear threaten to ruin the careful work she'd spent the last hour perfecting. Tonight was Theo's 29th birthday party, and tomorrow morning she'd start packing for London. 2 weeks. She had 2 weeks left before she'd put an ocean between herself and the man she'd loved silently for 7 years. She set down the mascara and gripped the edge of the sink, forcing herself to breathe. "You can do this," she whispered to her reflection. "One last party. Smile. Laugh. Pretend your heart isn't breaking. You've been doing it for 7 years. What's one more night?" Her phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Nicole, her younger sister. "Girl, if you don't tell him tonight, I swear I will. This is ridiculous. 7 years, Jazz." Jasmine's fingers hovered over the keyboard, then she typed back, "Not happening. See you there." She slipped into the emerald green dress she'd bought specifically for tonight, the one that made her feel beautiful and confident, the one she'd secretly hoped Theo would notice. Then she laughed bitterly at herself. After 7 years of study sessions in oversized hoodies, coffee runs in yoga pants, and late-night meetings in business casual, why would tonight be any different? Theo Sullivan saw her as his best friend, his rock, his constant. Never as the woman who'd memorized the exact shade of blue in his eyes. The rideshare dropped her off in front of Theo's penthouse building in downtown San Francisco, all glass and steel. When they'd met at Berkeley Law, Theo had been scrappy and brilliant, living off ramen and ambition, coding at 3 in the morning while maintaining a near-perfect GPA. She'd loved that version of him. The one who wore the same hoodie 3 days in a row and got genuinely excited about obscure Supreme Court cases. Now he had money. Real money. Tech billionaire money. The kind that came with a penthouse, a driver, and a social circle that made Jasmine feel like an outsider looking in. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. Jasmine checked her reflection one more time in the mirrored walls, smoothing down her dress, reapplying her lipstick. Behind her carefully constructed mask, panic clawed at her chest. The elevator doors opened directly into Theo's penthouse, and the assault of sound and light nearly made her step back. The space was packed with San Francisco's elite, tech moguls and venture capitalists and model-thin women in designer everything. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased the glittering city below. This wasn't Theo. This was the performance Theo had learned to give. "Jasmine." Nicole appeared from the crowd, grabbing her arm and pulling her into a tight hug. "Thank God. I've been here for 20 minutes and I've already been asked if I'm somebody 3 times. I told the last guy I was Beyoncé's cousin." Despite everything, Jasmine laughed. "You didn't." "I absolutely did. He believed me too." Nicole grabbed 2 champagne flutes from a passing waiter and pressed one into Jasmine's hand. "You look gorgeous, by the way. That dress is everything." "Thanks," Jasmine murmured, scanning the crowd for the one face that mattered. She found him near the windows, surrounded by investors, and her heart did that stupid thing it always did when she saw him. Theo Sullivan stood tall in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his dark hair slightly tousled in that effortlessly handsome way. He was laughing at something someone said, but even from across the room, Jasmine could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Then, as if he could feel her watching, Theo looked up. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and his entire face transformed. The corporate mask fell away, replaced by genuine joy. He excused himself and started making his way toward her, weaving through the crowd with determination. "There she is," Theo said as he reached her, pulling her into a hug that lasted just a beat too long. He smelled like expensive cologne and something underneath that was purely him, familiar and devastating. "I was starting to think you'd bail on me. And missed the social event of the season." Jasmine pulled back, forcing brightness into her voice. "Never. Happy birthday, old man. We're the same age, Jazz." "Yes, but you're older by 3 months, which makes you ancient." It was their routine, this easy banter, 7 years of inside jokes and comfortable rhythms. Theo grinned at her, that crooked smile that had first made her heart skip in their constitutional law class. "You look incredible," Theo said, his gaze sweeping over her dress in a way that made her skin warm. Then, as if catching himself, he added quickly, "I mean, you always look great, but tonight you really, yeah." Smooth, Sullivan, Derek Chen appeared beside them, Theo's business partner and the third wheel in their friendship dynamic. "Real smooth. Hey, Jasmine. Love the dress. See, Theo? That's how you compliment a woman." "Shut up, Derek," Theo said, but he was smiling. Nicole cleared her throat pointedly. I'm going to get more champagne. Jasmine, want to come with me? Actually, I need to borrow Theo for a second, Derek interjected. Emergency investor situation. 5 minutes, tops. Before Jasmine could protest, both Derek and Theo were swept back into the crowd, leaving her alone with Nicole, who immediately grabbed her arm. Okay, real talk time, Nicole said, steering her toward a quieter corner. You're leaving in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. When exactly were you planning on telling your supposed best friend that you're moving to London? Jasmine took a long sip of champagne. I told him last week. And what did he say? He said it was an amazing opportunity. That I'd be brilliant. That London was lucky to have me. Each word tasted like ash. He was happy for me, Nicole. Genuinely happy. Because he doesn't know you're running away from him, you absolute disaster of a human. I'm not running away. I'm accepting a dream job with one of the most prestigious environmental law firms in the world. You're running away, Nicole insisted. And honestly, I don't blame you. 7 years of watching him date Instagram models while you sit in the friend zone would break anyone. But Jazz, you have to tell him. You at least owe him the truth before you leave. Jasmine's grip tightened on her glass. And say what, exactly? Hey, Theo, I know we've been best friends since law school, but surprise. I've been in love with you this whole time. Sorry I waited until I'm literally leaving the country to mention it. Have a nice life with your billions and your supermodels. When you say it like that. There's no good way to say it, Nicole. If he felt the same way, he would have said something by now. We've had 1,000 opportunities. 1,000 perfect moments. And every single time, he chose to keep me in the friend zone. I'm not going to humiliate myself by confessing feelings he doesn't share just to make myself feel better about leaving. Nicole's expression softened. What if you're wrong? What if he does feel the same way and is just as scared as you are? Then we're both cowards, and maybe that means we don't. Before Nicole could respond, the lights dimmed slightly and the crowd's chatter died down. Derek stood near the center of the room, microphone in hand, grinning like he was about to cause trouble. All right, everyone. Can I have your attention please? Derek's voice boomed through the penthouse. I know you're all here for the free champagne, but let's take a moment to celebrate the birthday boy himself, Theodore James Sullivan. The crowd applauded as Theo stepped forward, looking genuinely embarrassed. Jasmine watched him, memorizing every detail. The way he ran his hand through his hair when uncomfortable. The slight flush on his cheeks. Now, I've known Theo for 5 years, Derek continued, and in that time, I've watched him build 3 successful companies, make more money than God, and somehow remain the most emotionally unavailable person in San Francisco. But you know what? There's one person who's been there longer than any of us. One person who knew him when he was eating ramen for every meal and debugging code at 4 in the morning. Jasmine's heart started pounding. No, he wouldn't. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the only woman who's ever really mattered to our birthday boy, Jasmine Brooks, his rock, his conscience, his best friend, and the reason he's still remotely human. Let's hear it for Jasmine. The spotlight swung toward her, and suddenly every eye was on her face. Jasmine felt her cheeks burn as the crowd applauded. Theo was looking at her too, with an expression she couldn't quite read. The champagne in her system buzzed warm and reckless. She'd had 3 glasses on an empty stomach, and the liquid courage was making everything feel slightly surreal. Speech, someone called out, and others picked up the chant. Jasmine should have laughed it off. Should have raised her glass in a toast and sat back down. Should have done literally anything except what she did next. Instead, she stood up. The room tilted slightly, or maybe that was just her perception shifting, the weight of 7 years of silence suddenly too heavy to carry. She walked toward Derek, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Derek handed her the microphone, his expression shifting from amused to concerned. Jazz, you don't have to. But she was already taking it from his hand. The microphone felt cold and solid. She looked out at the sea of faces, then her gaze found him. Theo stood near the windows, his blue eyes locked on hers, unaware she was about to detonate their entire friendship. Hi, Jasmine said, and her voice sounded strange through the speakers, too loud and too vulnerable. I'm Jasmine. For those who don't know me, I'm Theo's best friend. Have been for 7 years. 7 years of late-night study sessions, coffee runs, celebration dinners, and pretending everything was fine. She saw Nicole stand up abruptly, alarm written across her face. Saw Derek's eyes widen. Saw Theo take a step forward, concern replacing curiosity. Jazz? Theo said quietly, but the microphone caught it. I need to say something, Jasmine continued, the words tumbling out now, unstoppable. I need to say it before I leave for London in 2 weeks, because if I don't say it now, I'll never say it, and I can't spend the rest of my life wondering what if. Jasmine, maybe we should, Derek tried to interject, but she shook her head. It was constitutional law, second semester, when Professor Mitchell was going on about the exclusionary rule. Everyone was just nodding along, taking notes, playing it safe. But you, she pointed at Theo, her hand shaking, you raised your hand and you challenged him. You argued that the exclusionary rule was the only thing standing between citizens and a police state. You cited cases from memory. You were passionate and brilliant and completely unafraid. Theo's face had gone pale. Jazz, what are you doing? That was the moment, Jasmine said, tears starting to stream down her face, ruining her careful makeup. That was the moment I fell in love with you, Theo. 7 years ago. And I've been in love with you every single day since. The room had gone completely silent. Even the waiters had stopped moving. I've watched you date other people. Beautiful people. Successful people. People who probably made way more sense for you than I ever could. And I told myself it was fine. That being your best friend was enough. That I could compartmentalize my feelings and just be happy you were in my life. She laughed, a broken sound. But it wasn't fine. It isn't fine. And I'm tired of pretending. Jasmine, Theo took another step forward, his hand outstretched, but she backed away. You've built this incredible life, she continued, gesturing at the penthouse, the crowd, the obvious wealth. You're dating models and heiresses. You have investors and board meetings and a net worth that has more zeros than I can count. And I'm just, me. An environmental lawyer who still has student loans. Your best friend. The person you call when you can't sleep or when you need someone to tell you the truth. But never the person you actually choose. Her voice cracked on the last word. She could see Nicole pushing through the crowd, trying to reach her. Could see the mixture of shock and something else on Theo's face. I'm sorry, Jasmine whispered into the microphone. I'm so sorry, Theo. I know I'm ruining everything. I know I'm making this weird and uncomfortable and probably destroying our friendship. But I couldn't leave without you knowing. I couldn't spend the rest of my life wondering if maybe, just maybe, you felt even a fraction of what I feel for you. She set the microphone down on a nearby table with a thud that echoed through the speakers. The feedback screech made several people wince. Jasmine didn't wait to see Theo's reaction. Didn't wait for Nicole to reach her. She turned and ran toward the elevator, her heels catching on the expensive rug, her vision blurred with tears. Jazz, wait. Theo's voice called after her, but she was already slamming her hand against the elevator button. The doors opened immediately, mercifully, and she stumbled inside. As they started to close, she caught one last glimpse of Theo pushing through the crowd toward her, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. Then the doors shut, cutting off his image, and Jasmine collapsed against the elevator wall, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. What had she done? What had she just done? The elevator descended, each floor ticking by like seconds on a countdown to the end of everything that mattered. When the doors opened to the lobby, Jasmine practically ran through it, ignoring the concerned look from the doorman. She burst out onto the street, the cool San Francisco night air hitting her overheated skin like a slap. Her phone was already buzzing in her clutch. Nicole, probably. Or maybe Theo. She couldn't look. Couldn't face whatever messages were coming through. Instead, she flagged down a taxi with shaking hands. Where to? The driver asked. Jasmine gave him her address in the Mission District, then curled into herself in the backseat, watching the city lights blur past through tear-filled eyes. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Text after text, call after call. She finally pulled it out, her hands trembling. 15 texts from Nicole. Jazz, where are you? What the hell just happened? Call me right now. I'm coming to your apartment. Jasmine Brooks, answer your phone. 3 missed calls from Theo. 2 voicemails from Theo. Enjoying the story so far? Make sure you subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter of the adventure. Jasmine stared at Theo's name on her screen, her thumb hovering over the voicemail notification. She couldn't. Not yet. She shoved the phone back into her clutch and pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching the city pass by in a haze of neon and regret. By the time the taxi pulled up to her apartment building, Jasmine had cried herself into a state of numb exhaustion. She paid the driver, stumbled up the stairs, and fumbled with her keys before finally getting the door open. She kicked off her heels, peeled off the emerald dress, and collapsed onto her couch in her underwear and smudged makeup. Her phone rang again. Theo. Again. This time, she answered. Jazz. His voice was breathless, urgent. Jazz, where are you? Are you okay? I'm home, she whispered, pulling a throw blanket over herself. I'm fine. You're not fine. That wasn't fine. Jesus, Jasmine, you can't just. He stopped, and she could hear him breathing hard. I'm coming over. No. The word came out sharper than she intended. No, Theo. Please. I can't see you right now. I just need tonight. Give me tonight. There was a long pause. Jazz. Please, she said again, and her voice broke. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry. I just need to be alone right now. Another pause, longer this time. Then, quietly, okay. But we're talking tomorrow. First thing. I'm not letting you run from this. I'm already running from this, Jasmine said with a bitter laugh. I'm literally moving to London to run from this. Jasmine. She hung up before he could finish. Then she turned off her phone completely, threw it across the room where it landed with a thud on her armchair, and let herself cry until there were no tears left. Sleep came eventually, fitful and dream-haunted. She kept seeing Theo's face in those final moments before the elevator doors closed. When she finally woke up, sunlight was streaming through her curtains and someone was knocking insistently on her door. Go away, Nicole, Jasmine called out, her voice hoarse. Not Nicole, came the response, and her heart stopped. Theo. Jasmine sat up, panic flooding through her. She looked down at herself. She'd eventually put on an old law school t-shirt and pajama shorts, and caught her reflection in the mirror. Her makeup was smeared down her face, her hair was a disaster, and her eyes were swollen from crying. Jazz, I can hear you moving around in there, Theo called through the door. I brought coffee. Your favorite. The ridiculously expensive oat milk latte with an extra shot. Despite everything, she almost smiled. Almost. Theo, I look like a disaster. I don't care. Please open the door. Jasmine stood up, wrapped the blanket around herself like armor, and walked to the door on shaking legs. Her hand rested on the doorknob for a long moment before she finally turned it. Theo stood in her hallway, still wearing the dress pants from last night, but he'd changed into a faded Barclay Law hoodie. His hair was messy, and he had dark circles under his eyes. In his hands were 2 coffee cups from Blue Bottle Coffee. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Theo held out one of the cups. Can I come in? Jasmine took the coffee and stepped aside. Theo walked into her small apartment, and something about seeing him here made her chest ache. You kept that hoodie, she said stupidly. Theo looked down at himself, then back at her. Yeah. It's comfortable. I wear it when I need to think. He set his coffee down. Jazz, we need to talk about last night. I know. She pulled the blanket tighter. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Theo. I was drunk and emotional and I shouldn't have said any of that in front of all those people. I shouldn't have made your birthday party about me. I should have just kept my mouth shut. Stop, Theo said, taking a step toward her. Stop apologizing. But I ruined everything. Jasmine, stop. He ran his hand through his hair. Can we sit down? Please? She nodded and they moved to her couch, sitting on opposite ends with careful distance between them. The morning light made everything feel too real. Jasmine took a sip of her coffee just to have something to do with her hands. You didn't ruin everything, Theo said finally. You just said something true. Something I should have said a long time ago. Jasmine's head snapped up. What? Theo was staring at his coffee cup. That day in constitutional law. When I challenged Professor Mitchell. You remember what you did after class? I told you that you were brave. That most people were too scared to challenge authority like that. You said more than that, Theo said, his voice soft. You said that I reminded you why you wanted to go into law in the first place. That watching me argue made you remember that law was supposed to be about justice, not just corporate billables. You said I inspired you. I remember, Jasmine whispered. That was the moment for me too, Jazz. You were someone who saw me. Really saw me. Not the scholarship kid who didn't fit in. Not the guy who coded in the back of the lecture hall. You saw the person I wanted to be and you believed I could become that person. Jasmine's hands were shaking so badly she had to set down her coffee. Theo. Let me finish, he said, and there was something desperate in his voice now. Please. I've been trying to figure out how to say this for 7 years and if I don't say it now, I never will. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. I fell in love with you that day, Theo continued, his blue eyes finally meeting hers. And every day after. Every late-night study session where you'd fall asleep on my shoulder. Every celebration where you'd be genuinely proud of my success. Every time you called me out when I was being an idiot, or talked me down from a panic attack, or showed up at 3 in the morning. Tears were streaming down Jasmine's face again, but she couldn't look away from him. But I was scared, Theo said, and his voice cracked. I was terrified that if I told you how I felt, I'd lose you. That you'd get weird about our friendship or that I'd screw it up somehow. So I convinced myself that having you as my best friend was enough. You dated other people, Jasmine said, her voice barely above a whisper. So many other people, Theo. I know. He looked ashamed. I tried to move on. Tried to find someone who could make me feel even a fraction of what I felt for you. And every single relationship failed because I kept comparing them to you. Why didn't you say something? Jasmine demanded. 7 years, Theo. 7 years we could have had. Because I'm an idiot, he said simply. Because by the time I built my first company, you were dating that finance guy, Michael. Remember him? The one who called environmental law a cute hobby? That's the one. And I told myself that you were happy. That you'd chosen someone and I'd missed my chance. Then when you broke up with him, you started dating someone else. And someone else after that. I was trying to get over you, Jasmine admitted. Every single guy I dated was an attempt to prove to myself that I could feel something for someone who wasn't you. It never worked. Theo laughed, but it was a broken sound. We're both idiots. Catastrophically stupid, Jasmine agreed. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 7 years of missed opportunities hanging between them. Then Theo shifted closer, closing some of the distance on the couch. When Derek told me you were moving to London, he said quietly, I felt like someone had punched a hole through my chest. I went home that night and I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. All I could picture was my life without you in it. No more random Tuesday coffee runs. No more late-night phone calls when one of us can't sleep. No more having the one person who actually understands me just a text away. That's why I took the job, Jasmine confessed. I couldn't watch you live your life anymore, Theo. Couldn't keep showing up to your parties and meeting your girlfriends and pretending my heart wasn't breaking every single time. I thought putting an ocean between us would finally let me move on. And last night. Jasmine laughed bitterly. Last night I had 3 glasses of champagne on an empty stomach and 7 years of feelings I couldn't keep buried anymore. Last night I humiliated myself in front of half of San Francisco's tech elite. Last night I destroyed the most important friendship I've ever had because I couldn't keep my mouth shut for 2 more weeks. Jazz, look at me, Theo said, and there was something in his voice that made her meet his eyes. You didn't destroy anything. You saved us. How? How did I save us? I made everything weird and complicated and... You were brave enough to tell the truth, Theo interrupted. You did what I've been too scared to do for 7 years. You risked everything because you couldn't leave without me knowing. Do you have any idea how incredible that is? It was stupid and impulsive and... It was the bravest thing I've ever seen you do, Theo said firmly. And trust me, I've watched you argue cases in front of judges who try to intimidate you. I've seen you stand up to corporate lawyers 3 times your age. I've watched you fight for causes you believe in even when everyone told you it was hopeless. But last night? That was different. That was you risking the thing that mattered most. Jasmine's breath caught. What are you saying, Theo? He moved closer, until there was barely a foot of space between them. I'm saying that I have been in love with you since the day you stood up to Professor Mitchell for me. Since the day you told me I was allowed to take up space and have opinions and be somebody. Every company I built, every risk I took, every impossible goal I chased, part of me was trying to become someone worthy of you. Worthy of me? Jasmine repeated, incredulous. Theo, you're a billionaire. You've changed industries. You have more money than most people see in 10 lifetimes. And none of it matters, he said intensely. None of it means anything if I don't have you. I don't care about the money or the companies or any of it. The only thing I've ever really wanted is sitting right here, wearing an old law school t-shirt and looking at me like I might be about to break your heart. Are you? She whispered. About to break my heart? No, Theo said, and he reached out to cup her face in his hand, his thumb gently wiping away a tear. I'm about to tell you that I love you. That I've loved you for 7 years. That I've dated other people and built companies and made more money than I know what to do with, and none of it has ever made me feel the way I feel when you walk into a room. None of it has ever made me as happy as hearing your laugh or as content as sitting in comfortable silence with you or as completely terrified as the thought of losing you. Jasmine couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. 7 years of loving him in secret, of watching him from the sidelines, of convincing herself that this moment would never come. And now here it was, real and terrifying and more than she'd ever let herself hope for. "Say something," Theo pleaded. "Please, Jas. You're killing me here." "I don't know what to say," she admitted. "I've imagined this moment so many times and now that it's happening, I don't know if it's real or if I'm still drunk from last night or if I'm going to wake up and realize this was all a dream." "It's real," Theo assured her, his other hand finding hers and intertwining their fingers. "This is real. I'm real. What I feel for you is real. And if you'll let me, I'd like to spend the rest of my life proving it to you." "What about London?" Jasmine asked, because her brain was apparently determined to find problems even in this perfect moment. "What about it?" "I accepted the job, Theo. I signed a contract. I'm supposed to start in 2 weeks." "Then I'll come with you," he said simply. "I'll buy a flat in London. I'll learn to drink tea. I'll figure out the whole Q thing British people are so obsessed with. I don't care where we are as long as we're together. You can't just uproot your entire life for me." "Watch me," Theo said, and there was that stubborn determination she'd fallen in love with all those years ago. "Or don't go. Stay here. The job doesn't matter. None of it matters except this. Us." "The job does matter," Jasmine insisted. "It's an incredible opportunity. It's everything I've worked for." "Then we'll make it work," Theo said. "Long distance, if we have to. Or I'll split my time between here and London. Or we'll figure out something else entirely. I don't have all the answers, Jas. All I know is that I've spent 7 years without you and I can't do it anymore. I won't." Jasmine looked at him, really looked at him. At the dark circles under his eyes that matched her own. At the hope and fear warring in his expression. At the way he was holding her hand like she might disappear if he let go. This was Theo, her best friend, the person who knew her better than anyone. And he loved her. He actually loved her. "Kiss me," she whispered. Theo didn't need to be asked twice. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind, to pull away, to decide this was a mistake. But Jasmine didn't move. She stayed perfectly still until his lips met hers, soft and tentative and absolutely perfect. It wasn't like the kisses she'd imagined over the years. It was better. It was 7 years of unspoken feelings and missed opportunities and finally getting it right. It was coming home after a long journey. It was the answer to a question she'd been asking herself since that day in constitutional law. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Theo rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said again, like he needed her to hear it. Like he needed to make up for 7 years of not saying it. "I love you too," Jasmine replied, and saying it out loud, without fear or shame or the weight of secrecy, felt like flying. "I've loved you for so long, Theo. So long. We wasted so much time," he murmured. "No," Jasmine said firmly. "We built something real. We built a friendship that's strong enough to survive this. Strong enough to become something more. We didn't waste anything." Theo pulled back to look at her, his eyes bright. "So what now?" "Now." Jasmine smiled, really smiled, for the first time since the previous night. "Now we figure it out. Together." 1 year later, Jasmine stood in the same law building where she'd first fallen in love with Theo Sullivan, but everything was different now. The classroom had been transformed with strings of fairy lights. Photographs covered every surface, a timeline of their 7-year friendship turned love story. "Oh my God," Jasmine whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. Theo stood in the center of the room, wearing a navy suit that made his eyes look impossibly blue. "Surprise," he said softly. Jasmine walked slowly through the space, examining each photograph. There was one from their first year, both exhausted during finals week. Another from Theo's first startup launch, her face glowing with pride. One from a random Tuesday when they decided to skip studying. Each photograph had a small handwritten note attached. Jasmine read them one by one, tears streaming down her face. "This was the day you convinced me to take a chance on my first company. You said fear was just excitement without breath. This was the night you talked me down from a panic attack before my biggest investor meeting. You stayed on the phone with me until 3 in the morning. This was when you won your first major case. I wanted to kiss you so badly that day, but I was too scared." Jasmine moved through the timeline, watching their story unfold. The casual touches that had always meant more than friendship. The way they looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. The final photograph was from Theo's birthday party, the night everything changed. Someone had captured the moment right before she'd taken the microphone. The note read, "The moment I knew I couldn't lose you. The moment everything became clear." Jasmine turned to find Theo down on one knee, a small velvet box in his hands. "Jazz," he said, and his voice was shaking. "These past 12 months have been the best of my life. Every morning I wake up next to you feels like a gift. Every time you laugh at my terrible jokes or call me out when I'm being an idiot, I fall more in love with you." "Theo," Jasmine breathed, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "You chose London, and I chose to follow you. We made it work because that's what we do. We figure things out together." He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring with a single diamond surrounded by smaller emeralds. "You've been my best friend, my conscience, my home. You've been the person I call when I can't sleep and the first person I want to share good news with." Jasmine couldn't speak, could barely breathe. "I don't want to imagine a future without you in it," Theo continued. "I don't want to spend another day without knowing that you're mine and I'm yours. Jasmine Nicole Brooks, will you marry me?" "Yes," Jasmine said, laughing through her tears. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Theo slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her like his life depended on it. Behind them, the classroom door burst open and Nicole and Derek emerged from their hiding spots, champagne bottles in hand. "Finally!" Nicole screamed, rushing forward to hug her sister. "Do you know how hard it was to keep this secret? He's been planning it for 3 months." "You knew?" Jasmine asked, laughing and crying at the same time. "Everyone knew," Derek said, popping the champagne. "This man has been insufferable. Every conversation for the past 3 months has started with, 'Do you think Jazz will like this, or is this romantic enough?' I was never going to say no," Jasmine said, looking at Theo with so much love she thought her heart might burst. "I know that now," Theo said, pulling her close again. "But a year ago, I didn't even think I deserved to ask." 6 months later, Jasmine stood at the edge of an outdoor venue in Napa Valley, her hand tucked into her father's arm. Through the gauzy curtain, she could see the rows of white chairs filled with everyone who mattered, the floral archway where Theo waited, and the rolling vineyard stretching out behind them. "You ready, baby girl?" her father asked softly. "I've been ready for 7 years," Jasmine replied. The music started, and the curtain parted. Jasmine walked down the aisle in a flowing ivory gown, carrying a bouquet of wildflowers mixed with emerald green roses. Theo stood at the altar, Derek beside him as best man, and the expression on his face when he saw her nearly broke her. Wonder and love and disbelief that this was real. When she reached him, he took her hand and whispered, "You're so beautiful." "You're not so bad yourself," she whispered back, and he grinned. The ceremony was intimate and personal, filled with readings from their favorite books and songs that meant something to their story. When it came time for vows, Theo went first. "Jasmine," he said, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes, "you taught me that the best things in life aren't built overnight. They're built day by day. You were worth the wait. You were worth every scared moment, every missed opportunity." Jasmine squeezed his hands, her own tears flowing freely now. "Theo, you were my safe place before you were my love. You saw me before you loved me. You knew every messy part of who I am and you chose me anyway. I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant said, beaming. "You may kiss your bride." Theo didn't need to be told twice. He pulled Jasmine into his arms and kissed her as their friends and family erupted into applause. At the reception, Nicole gave her maid of honor speech, dabbing at her eyes. "I watched my sister fall in love with her best friend. Theo, thank you for proving her wrong." Derek followed, grinning widely. "Theo once told me he'd give up everything for one honest conversation with Jasmine. Turns out, he didn't have to choose." As the sun set over the vineyards, Theo and Jasmine had their first dance as husband and wife. He held her close, one hand at her waist, the other cradling hers against his chest. "What are you thinking?" Jasmine asked softly. "That I'm the luckiest man alive," Theo replied. "That I get to spend the rest of my life with my best friend. That 7 years of waiting led us here. Even the drunken confession in front of all your investors." "Especially that," Theo said, laughing. "Best birthday present I ever got." Jasmine rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Around them, their friends and family celebrated, but in that moment, it was just the two of them, the way it had always been, the way it would always be. People say love is about timing, but maybe it's really about truth. About being brave enough to risk everything for the chance at forever. Jasmine had taken that leap one drunken night, and Theo had caught her. Now they stood together, hands intertwined, wedding rings glinting, proof that sometimes the best love stories take their time. The ones built on friendship and trust. The ones that finally, beautifully, perfectly become exactly what they were always meant to be. If you felt anything while listening to this story, if it made your heart race, made you smile, or reminded you that real love still exists, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button to support the channel, subscribe so you never miss a new romance story, and turn on notifications to stay close to every heartbeat, every twist, every unforgettable love. And I want to hear from you. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from, your city, your country, your corner of the world. Your support helps this channel grow, and your comments inspire the next love story.